Unless you've been under a rock somewhere, you've heard about Thunderbolts. It's the new Marvel film that was just released. This is going to be a spoiler-filled review, so if you didn't see the movie yet and you care about spoilers, go watch it, then come back and check out this video. Thunderbolts packages itself as a superhero film, but you don't get much super or heroes in the movie. Well, at least not in the beginning. The film is more like a super trauma film, which each character trying to deal with, run from, or make amends for some weird thing that happened to them or they did in the past. You have my favorite character of the film, which is Yelena, played by the wonderful Florence Pugh. She's running from her past of being a child murderer or a murdering child in the Red Room back in the Black Widow project that we kind of seen in the first Black Widow movie, and she's been doing great everywhere we've seen her ever since. She really is the shining light of this film, I must say. She really brought it in and held it together for me, and she's the perfect replacement right now for Black Widow, aka Scarlett Johansson's character, and I think she did a wonderful job in this movie. Next up, we have Wyatt Russell, who portrays Captain America, U.S. agent, or I don't know who he's supposed to be at this point, honestly. He's dealing with the trauma of a toxic family relationship and trying to make up for the things that he's done in his past. A lot of the stuff we've seen in Falcon and Winter Soldier, the TV show, when he kind of lost his mind. In this film, you can tell somewhere in his head he's still convincing himself that he really is a good guy. And I must say, I didn't really love his character in Falcon and Winter Soldier, but he was able to elevate the character in this film to a point where he's actually likable, and you kind of care about his progression and redemption arc. Which brings us to the Winter Soldier, played by Sebastian Stan, of course. This is one character whose story arc didn't really do it for me in the film. His role as a budding politician didn't really seem fleshed out enough for me to really care about it, and his role as a one-man army didn't really seem focused enough for me to care about that either. Most of the time I seen him on camera, it was kind of like he was just there to say, hey, you do know this is a Marvel film connected to the greater Marvel universe. And to be honest, most of his dialogue could have been replaced by almost anyone, and I still would have got the picture. And most of his action scenes could have been replaced by, I don't know, maybe Taskmaster, which I guess we should jump into talking about Taskmaster. And big spoilers here. Okay, so I know Taskmaster had a lot of hate going into this film, wasn't really a lot of people's favorite characters. How Taskmaster was portrayed in the Black Widow film didn't really sit right with a lot of people, and I'm one of them. I was looking to see maybe they can elevate Taskmaster a little bit here, give her a little more story, give her a little more action, and make her likable like they've done with so many other characters before. She did open in one of my favorite scenes in the movie where Yelena goes to U.S. agent and Taskmaster were all trying to kill each other, but not directly, in a sort of action version of Abbott and Costello's Who's on First type of thing. But I loved the scene and I thought, hey, Taskmaster's actually going to become cool now. And bang, there it was. Ghost completely assassinates Taskmaster with a headshot, which was a bit jarring at the time. And I didn't know how to feel. But overall, even though I was sad that Taskmaster had to go and in such a violent, gruesome assassination, it did help move Ghost's character forward for me and showed me like, these are ruthless killers. These are not nice people. I think it was a big risk, big reward situation for Marvel to do that. They completely off the character to move forward the story and progression of other characters in the overall film. Good job. I actually liked it as much as I wanted to see Taskmaster move on. I think it helped more with her death moving forward the characters. This also managed to propel Ghost into one of my top 2 favorite Thunderbolts in the movie. So let's move on to Ghost, who didn't have much character development in this movie, if you ask me, but managed to be the rock-based, most consistent and convicted character on the Thunderbolts roster, which when everyone else is going through all these traumatic changes and trying to fix the red on their ledger, so to speak, it was a breath of fresh air to have someone who was pretty consistent moving in and going out. Of course, we have Red Guardian, who I never really cared much for. David Harbour has so much skills and has so much potential. Having him as this comic relief Captain America never really did it for me. And in this film, I see how they tried to up the father figure ante, but still, I kind of just wait for him to be on screen and eventually die. Yeah, I eventually wait for him to get the Quicksilver treatment. I was hoping it would be this film, but hey, there's always hope in Doomsday, right? Julia Dreyfus did her Justin Hammer thing as Valentina DeFontaine, and it kept the story moving forward. She never really seemed like such a super villainous character to me, and I guess that's part of the charm. But She did what she had to do, not mad at her. Finally, we have Bob, aka the Sentry, aka the Void. Yeah, that guy. He did a lot for me. I loved his character, man. He killed it as the Sentry. The portrayal of a kind-hearted kid who has a troubled past, who eventually gains power and then eventually flips out. Man, I think he killed it in every single scenario. This guy is a star here. I would love to see more of the Sentry, aka the Void. He was one of those little gems that are going to come out of this movie. There's a few, but he's one of the major ones, and I really can't wait to see what they do with him going forward. Okay, that's basically it on the characters. Let's get into what I did and didn't like about the film itself. Once again, Florence Pugh was phenomenal. She made me connect to the Widow story in a way I never got to do with Scarlett Johansson because the story and emotion just wasn't there in those early Avenger films. We did get some of that typical Marvel Disney slapstick humor, but it wasn't too much or overpowering, and especially in a film like this, it wasn't so much needed. It was just the right amount, and some of them did actually hit in this one. Visually, the sets and locations were what you expect for a film like this. We got a bunch of labs, old bases and corridors, long stretches of road. Yeah, and then we get a city finale. It's what you expected, and I'm not disappointed, not overly excited. It just hit the mark right in the center for me. One of my gripes, though, was the progression of Bob to Sentry to Void. I wish we got a little bit more Sentry in there. We got a decent amount of Void and a decent amount of Bob, but I feel like the Sentry part could have been fleshed out a little more to show his strength and abilities and that he is a force as the Sentry. Honestly, the rush feeling of it made me feel like this didn't have to be a theatrical release. There was nothing about this film that made me say, hey, this has to be on the big screen. It could have did well as a three-part series on Disney. I know a lot of people are like, oh, why? But I really do think that could have gave us a little bit of extra time to get a little bit more in there. Still put in some of the same type of budget, but get rid of the IMAX and give me a little more story because this is a story-driven film. It wasn't about special effects or any of that type of stuff or super cameos from the biggest stars. This was a film that could have been a series. Can we talk about Bucky's arm for a little bit? And I know this is just nitpicking. It's a superhero film. It's an action film. It's this, it's that. You kind of got to suspend your belief, but man, was it kind of annoying me. There are times where it operates like a regular arm, just super strong. And then there are times where it's like this impenetrable force field where I just don't really understand the power scaling of it. Maybe someone can explain it. I'm sure you guys are just Marvel experts and vibranium technicians out there. But let me just tell you what I'm thinking. At times, it seems like the arm is not actually even attached to his body, like it's an independent thing. I mean, there's a point in the film where he takes a wire that's roped to the front of a Humvee and wraps it around his arm and smashes the ground and has managed to flip over the Humvee without even budging. And yeah, okay, vibranium, right? Cool. There's another part where he completely defects a whole truck with his arm. I mean, boom, just flips the truck out the way and doesn't budge an inch. And yeah, vibranium, right? But it's still attached to his body. I mean, Captain America got kicked by George St. Pierre in his shield and flew across a ship at one point. I mean, is George St. Pierre's kick stronger than a moving truck? Maybe. All right, that might work. We all know when the Void was revealed as the villain of the film, there was no way the Thunderbolts could physically beat him. But it did give us an amazing scene. This fight scene, probably in my top two favorite scenes in the movie, really showed us like a comic book style fight against a super powered individual. It was a great scene, and I wish we got more Sentry. I applaud the writers and directors for trying to somehow put a cap on this fight between these losers and this superpowered individual, which gets even more superpowered by sending people into the void, into their nightmares. I knew it had to be some type of Guardian of the Galaxy dance-off type of thing. Instead, we got a group hug from the Thunderbolts. The Care Bears would be proud, and that settled everything and brought him back down from his voidism. Not my favorite type of ending, but I realized they wrote themselves into a corner there. The ending of the film, crowning them as the new Avengers, made sense and worked for a bunch of egomaniac assassins looking for redemption. Of course, they would want to take that title. It's like they were waiting to sell out at any moment. So I was happy how they did that, and it gave us something to look forward to, which brings us to the end credit scenes, which end credit scenes might be making a comeback because I haven't been this excited about an end credit scenes in a long while. It's not the best, but it does give me hope. foreshadowing the arrival of the Fantastic Four and maybe a battle between Sam Wilson's Avengers and the new Avengers. Yeah, the end credit scene was pretty exciting. I'll give them that. All in all, Thunderbolts was a cool popcorn flick, just skating by some of the Marvel garbage that was just filler in between, but also kind of just adding to the Marvel garbage that's filler in between. With the tone being a little more serious than some Marvel films, I give it credit for that. It's essentially Black Widow 2, The Rise of Yelena, and it should have been called that, or it should have just been a straight to Disney Plus release, in my opinion. They could have gave it a little more time, gave us a little more development, gave us a little more Sentry, and I would have been happy with that. I would love to give this film a 7, but with the recently viewed bias, I know it would go down, so I'm just going to stamp it now with a 6.5. I understand a lot of people may feel differently about it, and that's the beauty of cinema. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope to see you next time.